Welcome to Tulsa Titans, highlighting our local business leaders who are making a difference. Super excited today. I've got a good friend of mine and local business owner, Matt Torres. How are you doing, Matt?
Hi, Kellen. How are you doing? I'm
I'm
doing
doing
great.
good. To get
And
us
thanks
kicked
for
off,
having me on the show for sure.
yeah, I'm excited. To kick us off, will you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, where should I start? I'm president and CEO of RISE Armament, located here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and we make firearms, firearm parts, components, mainly triggers, and so we're known for that, um, mostly overall, and do what we can to support the community and that sort of thing.
Well, awesome. You and I were talking before we got started. The last year's been kind of an up and down. You know, you'd figure that firearms might be kind of popular right now for some people.
Yeah,
But
it is.
every industry's been affected a little bit. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, so for our industry, it's been something else. So it always has quite a boost in any election year. And so 2020, it started off pretty big just because it was election year. Mostly in the firearms, it's not a big sector for us because we're mostly in the components area. But it still rose significantly, and then we went through the COVID stuff, and that increased fear and that stuff in the public, and then you had all the riots and the political unrest, I guess, is the most PC thing to say these days. But uh, it created a lot of uncertainty, and in our industry, uncertainty and fear in public opinion is a good reason to go buy a gun usually, and that's usually what the public thinks. So it was quite the flux and increase in our industry. You know, we faced a lot of challenges, still do face a lot of challenges from supply chain issues, can't get parts, can't get material, rising prices, all of that. But we have been on the more fortunate side. So, you know, unlike a lot of restaurants or service businesses, we haven't been forced to shut down or limit our capacity, things like that. So we're definitely have good challenges, but challenges nonetheless. But we try to tackle them as we go, and all the while we're growing, and we're doing everything we can to keep pace and stay up ahead of our market and continue to increase our market share.
When as you've seen those challenges, are there some things that you evaluate and you've given up? And then what have you made more time for in this season?
More time personally.
Yeah, personally.
So our thing mostly, so we're going through well, a number of things. So we've been pretty fortunate. Our product got a lot more popular, and the brand continued to do that. And honestly, it started with our team. The better team members that I had joined the team, the more things started growing, and it added onto that each and every one. And so it was an exponential effect. And so back in 2000, I think it was 2018, in the fall of that, we quickly went on it kind of overwhelmed our capacity. We went on a back order, and we weren't ever, while we were growing, increasing our capacity and getting better um, and more efficient in that way of things. We were never able to get off the back order. So we went into 2020 before any kind of rise in the industry, and we were already faced with a huge back order. So we already had a big task ahead of us, and we're faced with an even bigger task. And luckily, we got a lot of people on board, and they're smart, committed. They're ready to tackle our challenges head on, and positively and everything. And so it's really forced me myself to focus more on growing leaders. So that's, you know, you go through the evolution of a business where you're doing so much. You're wearing, you know, it starts out with like all the hats, and then you get down to like 10 or 12 hats, and then it's less and less, and then you have to start working more and more on the business, and last year and continues this year, it's really focused on growing our leaders, and it's our really down to our middle management, those guys who it's their first time managing any teams, it's and that sort of thing. So it's a lot more coaching. Strategy and coaching is really my biggest focus in that, and it's really I've it's pushed me quite a bit to rearrange because it's uh, you know a lot of people have been in this kind of thing. It's a lot easier to just go out and do it yourself, and um, it's not the easiest thing to try to get it done through people. But I've been really impressed, and we've been lucky with the people we have. They're awesome. They're committed. Doing everything they can to grow and to see them to grow is really is really a cool thing.
When you said something really special there, and it is so easy when you already know what you're doing and you've done it a while just to take the reins and do it yourself. Um,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
tell everybody what's the mindset and the vision that you had to shift to really understand, hey, these leaders have to rise up and do it, and it is more efficient long term for them to really understand how to take the reins versus me doing it myself.
Well, shoot, you just hit. I guess it just there was probably a defining moment somewhere that I don't really remember, but at some point it just got to be too much. You had to figure out a different way, and the way just couldn't be brute force anymore. And I think that's a big point where a lot of leaders get, and and it's so frustrating. It's so dang frustrating because then you're used to going 100 miles an hour, and you're getting things knocked out, and they're getting things knocked out, but it's really that's as far as they're going to go if you don't actually spend the time to coach them and develop and allow them to make mistakes. And it's you have to have a lot of patience to do that. So um, I think I realized it a long time. Probably it was probably in the 2019 or so, but uh, man, I've probably made every mistake in the book as far as that goes. But because you just can't wait. I'm just so impatient, and I want to just jump in. I'm like, why can't you get this? And it's not quite fair because I failed so many times, and that's how I got it. So I need to let them do it. Um, Once I learned that, and I kind of got forced to let go because I got just so busy, and then I see, okay, now they're picking it up. So um, it's a it, it's not the easiest lesson to learn, but man, I'm glad you learn it, because once you do that, it just opens up um, a whole realm of possibilities. And honestly, it's really gotten to the point to where I've always, when I started a business, I always wanted to kind of get to the point to where you're really making a difference. And once you start seeing people grow in wherever that is and develop them, whether you have anything to do with it or not, you just enable the environment for them to grow. That's, to me, that's one of the most rewarding things there is. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Well, now that you've reached this kind of rewarding season of your life, is there one specific thing in your leadership you're doing now or doing daily that you know is kind of built up to some of that success? A specific habit, maybe?
Yeah, well, there's a number of them. Honestly, one thing that's kind of taken me to, well, there's two things that I can think of that's taken me kind of to new heights in my own personal productivity. Um, I read the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's you would think it's like how to arrange checklists and put all these things. You would think, and I did in the beginning. Like, how hard can this be? But you start getting into it, and you realize, oh my gosh, you get overwhelmed by that. Is how much stuff you do, and the main theory of that is quit worrying. The whole point is let he calls it external brain, but let paper keep the things about that you need to do thinking about that. So quit thinking about the things that you need to do and actually just focus on what you actually need to be doing at that time. And that took my productivity to another level. And then the next one was it seems even today seems new age, even though it's more uh, commonly accepted. But meditating, it's taken my uh, I don't know, energies to a new level. I'm able to focus for longer periods of time. Um, it's it's an enlightening experience, and for I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're religious or not. I tie it to a religious thing, but it it's something about it. There's a lot of science behind it actually, but it really works. So I would attribute kind of acceleration to probably those two habits.
When outside of just the habits, you mentioned the challenges, to get to these habits and to get leaders where they need to go. When you're going through those really challenging seasons, and some people feel like it's hard in those seasons to even get out of bed. What did you anchor that to? What's your why to get up and push through when things have to change and there's all this work or they just feel overwhelming?
Me, uh I'm actually more driven by there's more things to be done, and I really like the so my core purpose is a lot like our business core purpose, which is to make a lasting difference in the lives of our community and those who serve. And so that's kind of why I have some um, like teacher genes in me, where I really have, like a coach. I like that. I like to see the development of people. Um, but when I see a challenge and it's overwhelming, and you're just getting your butt kicked every day. I mean, you go in and you spend a 12, 14-hour day, and you look back and you're like, what the hell did I even accomplish? I don't know if I got anything done. I just lived the day. And then you have to go do it again. Um, there's a lot of those days for a long time, but for me personally, uh, the military has, uh, especially the special forces, SEALs, everything is like embrace the suck is what they use, and that's essentially if you can just get get okay with that and learn how to realize that if it's challenging, that means I'm gonna get through it. I'm not gonna die. Two, if I do get through it, I'm gonna be better for it. I'm gonna either learn something because I got my butt kicked, or I'm going to actually learn how to beat it, and then I'm better tomorrow. And so whenever I see challenging time or something like that, I'm excited. I think that's the time to grow. That's the time to go win. That's the time champions are made, or it's the practice, it's the hours put in beforehand. That's when something really special is getting made. So um, that's what's always motivated her. But for me, I think when things get kind of uh, even if they're trending good and they're kind of steady, that's when I kind of like, I'm not so motivated. Then I have to go create. I have to go do something. Where's the next challenge?
When you kind of mentioned a coach and seeing a teaching ability in you along your journey, has there been a person, a single person that's really stood out, or is there somebody you admire that's really poured into you?
Well, there's a lot. You my dad's a big influence, but specifically when my mother was a teacher, and then my grandfather, he was a professor a long time, and he was quite he's a character. He's one of those guys. You go into a room and he'd leave a room full of strangers. He'd leave best friends with everyone. He's just one of those guys. But um, he had a passion for knowledge. Like he just wanted to learn everything he possibly could, and tons of people that have met him thought he was probably one of the smartest guys you ever met. And I really think that was mainly he did have an incredibly high intellectual capability, but it's really because he was just driven by a passion to learn. Like he was just so curious, everything. I mean, he was 80 in his 80s, and he has the same curiosity as my 3-year-old would. He's looking at a blade of grass, even though he knows a lot more about it. He's still curious about all the little details. That's how he was with people. It didn't matter how what the story, anyone's background was. He said there was always something to learn. So I took that as my first principle. Is like, if you want to do something um, of value in your life, you got to, one, be curious, um, and that will help you learn. And the more you learn, that's the more you pass on. And um, the more we can pass on. I mean, that's kind of my ultimate goal. I figured, like, hey, we're here, and if we can leave the world a little bit better than we found it, then I think that's the ultimate purpose overall. And that was kind of his overarching theory as well, his ethos. So uh, I think that's probably where I get it for the most part.
Well, as far as distilling that now down through RISE, is there any specific actions that you implement, or the way that you interact to make sure that you're distilling the right actions and values to all the leaders that you've built up in your organization?
So we do a couple things. It was actually a couple years ago. We've always had our core values, and really we said we tried to live by them and everything. And then it was in 2019 when we said, okay, we're going to really live by them. We're going to hire, fire, reward, everything by them, and we're not going to BS about it. And that was a struggle, to say the least. You find out lines get drawn, and you're like, I don't want to get rid of him. It causes all kinds of rifts. I mean, uh, we had a mass exodus with one team at one time, and all our team was left. And we're like, oh my God, what happened? Um, and we got through it. It was no problem. But the team got so much better. And so it just reinforced our belief that we really need to be living by our values. And it found out that we attract even more that way. So we do that. And then I think it was 2019, one of our quarterly goals, or it was our annual goal in our planning. So for the company wide, I think we had 30 employees. It was something around there. But one of our goals was to read 150 books throughout the whole company. And it was kind of like, what is that going to do, right? I mean, that has nothing to do with business. And then it's only 150 books. I think it totaled out to be like 3 books a person or something. It wasn't much. And for the whole year. But my whole point was, we need to start, like, we need to just have a culture of learning, because it didn't matter. It didn't have to be a certain book. I kind of said, hey, it should be kind of self-help, or maybe business or something like that. But even if it was a novel, I mean, do it. Just read. Just learn something. Learn a story. So I didn't exactly know how it was going to work. No one seemed to care. Some people kind of thought it was silly, but the next year we were looking back at it in our annual planning and everything, and we're like, that like everyone smashed that goal, which really wasn't the point. But it was funny because people started reading the same kind of books, and then they could compare to different types of instances and experiences, and then their perspectives grew. And the smarter they got, the more they were able to solve problems, the more they were able to do things. And then it starts breeding this energy to go learn more. And it's a really cool thing to see. And we definitely kept the goal, or made it bigger the next year, and we still have it there. And it's just really a staple of saying, hey, we're here to learn continuously, and how we do things, and it's part of our continuous improvement principle or value.
No, that's very cool. When it's just accomplishing that common goal. So has it become kind of the whole team knows it's coming? What's the next goal to hit now for everybody?
Yeah, they know that that's there. And it's kind of it's not a huge driving goal. I mean, it's not going to tick the profitability numbers or revenue numbers up or anything. but it gives people, we talk about it quarterly, and every manager and leader talks about it with their team in their weekly meetings or in their daily one-on-one or weekly one-on-ones. Um, and so it's a conversation about, hey, it's just always present that if we want to continuously improve and improve, like, hey, we want to leave the world better than we found it, then we ourselves have to improve too. And just having that as part of the conversation, kind of all the time, as a daily basis, just here and there, has seemed to do make a big difference in people. It's just kind of intangible, but of a thing, but it's pretty neat to see.
No, that's awesome. We live by our core values too, and it's hard. But when you say when you make the most important thing and say it all the time, it makes an impact past what you originally thought.
Yeah, it's really not an easy thing to do, especially when you got that rock star player. He's getting the big numbers, right? And he just
doesn't fit culture.
Toxic. Yeah. And then you get rid of him, and everyone does not understand that.
Yeah. Well, and before we've hired, you can imagine in the tech world, right? We have a very specific culture, and our team really thrives because we've lived by those. We've been a part of other companies and moved here and said, hey, that's all that matters, is that we walk out these core values. We've had to say no to some of the brightest minds we've ever interviewed because they just simply long-term will not fit our culture. And we
But you've lived through the pain though, right?
Yeah. You always get through it.
Yeah. I mean, you know what that having someone that doesn't fit your culture is like, and that's not so fun, no matter how well they perform.
That's right. So for anybody listening that needs to hire, don't hire somebody that doesn't fit culture. It's not worth it. Don't learn the hard way.
It's bigger than what you think.
Yeah, it's bigger.
It makes it so much more fun, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's I don't know. It doesn't matter what you're necessarily doing. You can just be passionate about the work. It doesn't matter what the work is. You can just be passionate because, I mean, you like people, the people that are around you, and you're all in it for the same thing. So it makes it a lot of fun.
I'm a firm believer. Some people say you don't have to like people to be successful, right? Or the people you work with. You're around people all the time. I prefer to like them. I really do.
Yeah. I'm not a big believer in the whole work-life balance thing. One, people will look at me and think, oh, of course you're not. You just do work and you don't do the life thing. But that's not the way I see it. You might see a workaholic, but I see it. It's like it should be a blend. Like, and I'm not saying you need to work 12 hours a day. I'm just saying it's such a big part of your life. It is life. If you're not enjoying yourself at work, what's the point? We're not here to be miserable 8 hours a day and then move on and be happy. Like, that's a 30-year life right there. It's, if you can make your work life part of life and enjoy your time and not take things too seriously, but go out and accomplish some fun things and challenge yourself and push yourself, and then that's great. And if you can have some people around that are doing the same thing around you, it makes it even better. So the whole work-life balance becomes much less of an issue because it's just life.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. You shouldn't put work in some kind of container and then life in another container.
Yeah, it can all fit together.
Yep.
So
one last question. You mentioned getting things done, that book, Making an Impact. And I know the people that listen to the podcast really dig in and want to grow in some way, shape, or form. If you had to go back through 2 books that really made an impact, what would they be and why?
Oh, goodness. Depends on the perspective that you're coming from, but sticking to like a self-development, I would say a book, Principles by Ray Dalio, is a great one. It's Principles of Life and Work, I think, but they're good. Not all the principles that he talks about in that story you'll agree with, but a lot you will. And the main thing I took away from that is is just living a more principled life. And you can really, if you really tried, you have your values, but if you really tried, you could get down to your principles, and it would help your decision making so much. The better you get your principles defined, and I think that's tremendously valued there. The second one, which is more business and kind of manufacturing, is a book called The Goal by Eli Goldratt. It's kind of it's based on the theory of constraints. It's written in a novel form. The Eli Goldratt, he's a physicist, and he talks about it. It kind of goes through it's a novel, kind of a story, but based in factual things, and it's about a factory that's having trouble. And he goes through the thought process of how he does it. So people hear like Elon Musk and those kind of guys talking about using physics as first principles and that sort of thing. It's the same kind of thing. They use the scientific laws and physics principles to figure out problems and solutions. And this is what Eli Goldratt does in his novel. And there's been a lot of business leaders out there that have called that one of the best business books out there. But I think it's a good book overall, from manufacturing, life lessons, and business. So those would be the two I'd recommend.
Well, Matt, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, has any questions kind of about what you shared or your business, what's your preferred way to communicate?
Yeah, either way. I mean, you can call, check us out on our website, risearmament.com, or email or text, however you want to do it. I'm happy to help wherever I can. I definitely don't have all the answers, but we love to talk with anyone who had any kind of questions or would like to know more.
Well, everybody, thank you. This is Kellen Cowan, one of the partners here at New Wave Solutions. Matt, genuinely, thank you for giving today.
Yeah, thank you, Kellen. Thanks for having me.